So Comics Applied, the first question is, what is the gutter? The gutter, if we take a look here, this little bubble tells us the space between the panels. That's what comic aficionados, so that's what like real comic people have called the gutter. So the gutter is this white space in between the panels. Okay, what does the gutter do? All right. Here in the limbo of the gutter, human imagination takes two separate images and transforms them into a single idea. So really we're just kind of saying, did you read this bubble and understand it? So we have these two pictures. The gutter helps connect them and make them a single idea. That's what it does. It creates connections. What does closure allow us to do? So for that one, we have to go on to the next page and figure out, okay, find the word closure and figure out what closure is. So kind of reading about fractures and connections. If closure is the grammar, and since our definition of comics hinges on the arrangement of elements, then in a very real sense, comics is closure. So the idea that we have to make connections between two pictures. That's kind of what closure is, the ability to make those connections. And then 3, that means we're on the next page. Who is the silent accomplice, also known as the equal partner in crime? So if we scroll down here, kind of looking for those italicized or bold words. So here we can see the silent accomplice. So we want to make sure we read this bubble really carefully. Every act committed to paper by a comic artist is aided and abetted by a silent accomplice, an equal partner in crime known as the reader. So the answer to who is the silent accomplice is the reader, the person who's reading. And then what are some of the implied questions? So we're not necessarily asking questions right out, but we're looking for some of those question words. Who, what, when, where, how, any of those. So let's see if we can find them. I may have drawn an axe being raised in the example, but I'm not the one who let it drop or decided how hard the blow, or who screamed, or why. So there are our implied questions. He is asking, how hard was the blow? Who let the axe drop? Who screamed? And why did they scream? So those are some of those questions that he's asking. Now he drew this, and you all probably made that connection that it was more than likely this guy here dropping that axe on this guy here because of how it's arranged. But we didn't actually see that. So if you imagine that the axe fell between his shoulder blades, somebody else might have guessed that the axe went into his hand, or somebody else might have guessed that the axe dropped on the axe wielder's foot. So that is really your job as the reader to figure out these extra things. So you're involved is the cool thing about comics, is that it's not just the artist who says what's happening. The reader gets a say as well. So you kind of got a chance to describe what you imagine to happen in your own way. Everybody has a little bit of different take on where the axe falls, who gets to scream, why they screamed, all that jazz. Then we have 2 more questions on page 4 and page 5. So page 4, participation is the powerful force. So that's kind of our bolded word there is participation, powerful force. So what powerful force? Participation. And then what complex process do even seasoned pros sometime blow? Let's take a look. We assume as readers that we will know the order to read the panels, but the business of arranging panels is actually quite complex, which we kind of looked at a little bit today. So complex that even seasoned pros, people who do it a lot, will sometimes make a mistake and make it difficult to read. So usually if things are like, we can go like that pretty easily, and we might go there, but then there's this other panel, should we go here? Should we go there? Then now we're lost and we're not really sure. So try to make sure that it makes sense for your reader to read. So the arranging of the panels can sometimes be confusing. And the last thing is that we can have pictures that are totally unrelated, but that sometimes we make connections between them anyway. And that's our bonus page. But it looks like part of that got cut off. So I apologize if you were not kind of able to see that whole thing. If you had downloaded it, I think you would have been able to, but I should make sure I make that a change. So that is the end of our comic lesson for today.